Hello there, it's Elliot here, and as always, I'm here to talk about some great movies. Now, in this video, I'm going to be talking about some of the recent Eureka Entertainment Blu-rays that I have been watching over the last month or so. I have a stack of films to recommend to you today, and some of them are quite obscure. Many of these I hadn't actually heard about before Eureka announced their releases. So hopefully there'll be something here for all of the hardcore cinephiles out there, something that you might not have heard about before, and you can now put it on your watch list. Oh, before I forget, because people do ask about this, all of these releases are Region B locked. So these are the UK releases. So you'll either need a Region B Blu-ray player, or you'll need a multi-region, region-free player to watch all of these. So onto the list, and the first one that I want to talk about is one that I talked about a few months ago on the channel actually, but it bears repeating that this is a great release. It's the Vampire Carl Dreyer release from Eureka. This is the limited edition, which I think is still available, although it might be out of print. So you might be able to find it at some retailers. It's well worth it if you're a fan of this film, if you're a fan of horror movies, if you're a fan of Carl Dreyer, if you're a fan of Guillermo del Toro, who does one of the audio commentaries on this release. Even if you can't get the limited edition, I'm sure at some point Eureka will be releasing just the disc on its own. They might have already announced that actually. I can't remember off the top of my head. So yes, if you want more info about this, then go and check out my review on my channel. Basically, it is better than the old Criterion Blu-ray. So if you already have that, this might be worth replacing that disc or double dipping. Next up, we have the Shaolin Plot. This is one of the Hong Kong martial arts movies that Eureka has been releasing, and I have been absolutely amazed by these releases. This was an area of cinema that I wasn't well versed in at all, but these releases have introduced me to so many great fun movies, and I love the design of each of these releases as well. I love the slipcovers that they come with, and the films are just really entertaining. This film is notable because it's actually one of Sammo Hung's first proper acting roles as a main character. And I just absolutely love when he's on screen. He's so charismatic, so playful, and obviously really good at what he does. All of these releases also have brilliant special features. They have some great audio commentaries with Frank Jeng and Michael Worth, who know an awful lot about these movies. So it's also very educational as well as being very fun. So this is great. I'm so happy to have this in my collection. I also spent quite a bit of time with this next release. This is the Karloff Universal Terror, and you get 3 of Boris Karloff's Universal films in here. You get Night Key, The Climax, and The Black Castle. These are 3 films that came out across 2 decades in his career, but they're collected here with a bunch of special features going into Karloff himself and his career as a whole, as well as talking about the individual movies as well. I had a fun time with these, but what I would say is that you have to really be a fan of either Karloff or the Universal horror B-movie type of film, because if you're not coming at it from one of those angles, the films might leave you wanting quite a bit more. That's not to say that they're bad movies, not at all. It's just this one I think is really for the enthusiasts of the man himself, Boris Karloff, or just the overall genre that was displayed in these old Universal movies. So overall, it's a great release, just one for the real fans. This next one was a lot of fun. I really had such a great time with this. It's Revolver, the film from Sergio Sollima. This is one of the Italian poliziotteschi films, which is a subgenre of the thriller genre, where it focused on the police and crime in Italy. And they are a lot of fun. Some of them very violent, very brutal, but they often have many twists and turns, and they can be quite graphic. And they always have these charismatic heroes or anti-heroes as the protagonists. What's notable about this one is this stars Oliver Reed. And I always find it fascinating when British and American huge stars would go over to Italy in this period and just make these really wacky or often great genre movies. Burt Lancaster is someone that obviously springs to mind as someone who went from America to Italy to make a bunch of great films. And this is one of those. This is one of Oliver Reed's great films for sure. The story is one that had me absolutely hooked because Oliver Reed plays this prison warden and his wife is kidnapped. And he is told that in order to get his wife back, he has to release this prisoner who is dangerous and he's a criminal, or he'll never see his wife again. So the prison warden and the prisoner get wrapped up in this world of conspiracy. They don't know who's calling the shots, and it's just a lot of fun to watch. Not only is it a great film, but you get a bunch of special features. There's a commentary on here as well. So I highly recommend this to anyone who just likes a good thriller. Then I watched Outside the Law. This is a Masters of Cinema release. This is directed by Todd Browning and it's a silent film from the 1920s. This one has some pretty big names from the time. It's got Priscilla Dean, Lon Chaney, and it's an interesting story. This is one that's all about the criminal underworld and, people trying not to get wrapped up in, crime basically, and gangsters and things like that. It's taken from a 4K restoration, and I think all silent movie enthusiasts will really appreciate how good this film looks on the Blu-ray. This is another film that I wouldn't recommend to absolutely everyone. I think you have to be either a big silent movie fan, or perhaps you're a fan of Todd Browning's work, or Lon Chaney, or Priscilla Dean. I think if someone is coming at this, and this is one of the first silent movies they've ever seen, I think there are better starting points, is what I'm saying. So if you're a fan of any of the things that I just talked about, silent movies or the people involved, then this is one to check out. Quite a recent one that I just watched is Running Out of Time 1 and 2. These are the Johnny To films, brilliant action thrillers from Hong Kong. These aren't my favourite movies from Johnny To, but I do recognise the things that would show up in his films after these, the style that he was developing and, the characterizations and the camera movements and things like that. You can see it all here. And this makes a pretty good companion with one of Eureka's other Masters of Cinema titles, Throwdown from Johnny To, which is one of my favourite films of his, actually. I prefer that one to these two, but nevertheless, they do make a good bunch of films together to enjoy. There is a lot of value in this release because you get 2 feature films and a ton of special features on the back of this case. I mean, all of this, you won't be able to read it, but all of this is special features, including multiple commentaries and interviews and featurettes and things like that. So for the Johnny To fans, I'm sure you probably already picked this up. But anyone who's just a fan of modern action thrillers, this is a great one to get. And then I have Execution in Autumn. This is another Masters of Cinema title. This is from the Taiwanese director Lee Sing, who is a very important figure in Taiwanese cinema. And he went on to inspire, many of the later directors who came in the Taiwanese New Wave, like Ho Xiaoshen and Edward Yang and people like that. So a very key figure in the movement, but also a great filmmaker. And this was one that I'd never heard of. But as soon as it was announced, I went and checked out the trailer and it just looked and sounded really fascinating. The story begins with this young man who, in a fit of rage, killed this woman, and his grandmother is then trying to get him out of prison. So even though he's committed this crime, she wants to free him, and we follow her as she struggles to achieve this goal. From that synopsis, you can gather that this is quite a complex story with lots of different moralities crossing over here. It is quite a slow film, quite meditative. You know, it takes its time with these characters, with these environments. There is a great set design to this with the prison, and there's wonderful colours on screen, and the music is brilliant as well. So there's a lot of great filmmaking going on here. On my first watch, I did enjoy it, but I don't know, for whatever reason, it left me feeling a bit cold. However, since watching this a few weeks ago, I've just kept thinking about this movie. So it's one that I am going to revisit much sooner rather than later, because sometimes that happens. You know, films don't hit you straight away, but then you think about them all the time and you actually realize that they are great works of art that, you know, you want to revisit over and over again. There's also a great interview with Tony Raines on the disc, and he's obviously an expert of all Asian cinema, it seems. And he talks at length about this movie, the significance of the filmmakers involved, and, you know, the position of this film in Taiwanese cinema. So all around a fascinating release and a brilliant one as an addition to the Masters of Cinema collection. If you'd like to hear about more boutique Blu-rays that I have been enjoying lately, then do watch this video that's presented on screen right now. I'm sure you can get some more recommendations from that video, so do go and check that out. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.